Welcome to our Saxon Math review video. This is a short video just to show you what the books for Saxon Math look like, what some of the concepts are that they teach, and how they're put together. I have an elementary and a middle school version of the Saxon Math books. I have other ones in my possession. They're actually lent out to a lot of people. A lot of people use the Saxon Math program and they absolutely love it. And so that's why I only have two here now. But let's take a look at them. We'll see how they're put together. We're going to start with the Saxon Math 5-4. A lot of people I know who use Saxon don't start using it until about 3rd grade. The 5-4, just the numbers on it, with the Saxon they have the 3rd grade and they have the 5-4 and they have the 6-5 and the 7-6 and the 8-7. Basically the concept behind that is this is your typical 5th grade text or your 4th grade text, depending on if your student is, boy that reflection's bad, I'm sorry, there you go. 5th or 4th, depending on your students' comfortable with math, their history of doing math, that sort of thing. So let's take a look. This is the homeschool text for the Saxon Math book. Saxon is a spiral math book, and what that means is that the student is going to cover a little bit of a topic, and then they're going to review it in the next one and cover a little of a different topic, and they're going to review both of those in the next one and cover a little bit of another one, and they'll go deeper in as they go. But they're not going to just dive into something like place value and stay there for a really long time. That's not how Saxon works. Saxon actually reminds me a lot of the Suzuki method, where they learn a song, a simple song, and the next lesson they learn the next song, but they still keep playing the previous song and they keep building on that, with the difference in Saxon being that they come back to that material and go deeper each time that they see it. If you're naturally mathematically minded, that can be a little frustrating. I find it to be a little frustrating because I like diving into something like exponents and getting all about exponents out and really studying it deeply and really mastering exponents before moving on. And I like to review exponents later, but I like to master it, whereas Saxon will introduce you a little bit to exponents and then they'll go on to a different topic and they'll go on to exponents again and go a little deeper each time. So let's just take a look at how the 5-4 book is put together. You've got, it's like 120 lessons. They start out with a review of addition, then some sequences, place value, your ordinal numbers, months of the year. They review subtraction. Then you add money. You add with groups. So you'll see you started up here in the very first lesson with adding, just basic addition, but then you didn't adding with regrouping until lesson 9. So you had all these other things in between before adding even further or getting a little deeper. You had even numbers, odd numbers, you have number lines. Oh, then we're going to do some addition stories. Oh, then we're going to do missing numbers and subtraction. So we introduced subtraction in this actual book back here with a review of addition and subtraction. But then we didn't do missing numbers and subtraction till down here. So you see how you can kind of see each topic coming up later on. And that's okay. A lot of people master math that way and they love these books. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a preference thing for different people. Our brains are all wired so differently. It's really hard. You can't just pick one book and say, this is going to work for the entire world. That's not how that works. Everybody's different. God made us all different, and that's good. That's a good thing. The Saxon philosophy, this talks about the incremental development and some review, lots of review. There are tests and worksheets. There's a solutions manual available to this. I don't have it. Sorry. All right, and some materials you want to use. So you'll see a lesson starts out with a warm-up, which is usually a mental math thing, where you teach your student to add mentally or whatever the concept is in this box. They're practicing, they're kind of warming up their brain. This is great. I love the mental math in Saxon. It's fantastic. Then they have a review of addition. This is lesson 1 of the book after all. They assume they've seen addition in the past. The new concept is reviewing addition. It goes through, there's lots of examples. This book is written in such a way that your student can read it and complete the program by themselves. This is not a book where you need another teacher's guide with a script. This book is for your student to pick up and basically self-teach themselves. You will need to answer questions they have, but they should be able to do most of this themselves. So they go through, they read this, and there's practices. You have a practice set, which is oftentimes a review, and then you have a mixed practice, which is a review and new concepts together. Then you have lesson 2. You have your warm-up, your new concept that they read, their practice set, and then their mixed practice. And they'll see these little numbers here. I don't know if you can see them on the screen, but this number 1 tells you that this concept or this particular number, if they're having a hard time with it, they need to go back to lesson 1 because that's where that was covered. You'll see this is a number 2. That was covered. This is new. This was just covered in this lesson. So you see as you go, they all have the same sort of format. This is the 5-4 book. So this is your 5th grade, 4th grade student, depending on their ability and how strong they feel with their math. You'll see they have lesson practice, mixed practice, and there's a lot of practice problems here. You see 27, and each, some of them have more than one section. And you have the practice set isn't even counted in that. This is A through O. So there's a lot of Saxon practice, which is fantastic. Now let's look at the additional topics and supplemental practice in the back. So in your appendix, they have some extra descriptions in the back in case your student missed some things previous to this subject. For example, money, Roman numerals. If they had never been taught Roman numerals and this is the Saxon book you start with, then there's the resource right in the back for you to go take a look at it. More Roman numerals. In base 5, our number system is base 10. Base 5 is a different number system, so they're showing them how that works, which is really fun. I love different bases. And you have some extra practice for each lesson. If your student is really struggling with a specific concept and you want them to have some more practice, there's some more practice right in the back, supplemental practice. And you have a glossary of terms. And that's kind of long because there's lots of great terms. Then you have your index where you can find your different things. So that's how your book is put together. And you'll see that the Algebra 1/2 book is pretty much the same thing, only it's for older students. So we have our lessons. There are more than 120. There's 123 lessons. And you'll see in the back we have our extra practices, extra concepts that we might have missed before this, some theorems, approximating roots, polynomials, geometry, your glossary, and your answers to your odd number problems. So if you're assigning the problems in this book and you want to do a quiz with your student, you can always assign the even questions, even numbered questions, and then the answers aren't at the back. Or you can assign the odd ones and then you can check their work and give them a grade. So let's see. It's really hard to look at a table of contents in a Saxon book and say, oh yes, great, it's covering all of these particular concepts. And that's because of the incremental approach. There's nothing wrong with that. It is solid. Many mathematicians, many teachers have used this book and students have learned a lot, and they have a solid math program. So you can trust it, you can trust the system. They're going to be getting the concepts they need in Algebra 1/2 using the Saxon Algebra 1/2 book. But if you're one of those people who needs to know exactly what concepts they're learning, it's going to be hard to navigate the table of contents. On Skio Academy, our pre-algebra course does follow the units out of a different pre-algebra book than Saxon, but it does cover all of the same concepts. So you can use the Saxon book with our pre-algebra course. And of course, if you are on our weekly webinars, your student can ask any questions they have from any of their lessons in pre-algebra during the webinar, and we are more than happy to help them with it. So you see the table of contents. They start here with the whole number place value. You're going to notice with a lot of the higher elementary books, even with the 5-4 book, most books start with basic, simple numbers, addition, subtraction, because those are the basic arithmetic concepts that these students need to have mastered before going into Algebra 1. And the idea being that each year they're going to learn the same sort of concept, only it's going to go deeper. Now we saw that in the Singapore math program, we see it in Saxon. It's very, very common. You see, there's a lot more reading in the Algebra 1/2 book. There's some reading here, and then the practice. You have the practice and the problem set. You'll see this is a little less clear as far as the distinction between reading and practice, but it's still the same idea. It still has a lot of practice. There's still 30 questions here. You get into rounding, the practice, and the problem set. Lots of instruction, examples for your students so they fully understand how to do the work before they get to the practice, but there is a lot of it. And if your student has any questions, they can go back and read the sections. They can use the numbers in the, here you'll see the numbers where the lesson itself is covered. They can come to us and ask us questions. That's what we're here for. This is a great program. So you've seen one of these books. They're all pretty much built the same way. I want to really just show you the this book here. This is a homeschool packet book. And basically, this is the test book. So it's just your different tests available. So if you buy the textbook for Algebra 1/2, you can buy the test book as well. And then you'll have your test book for your student to do tests and be able to test their knowledge of the work that they've been doing. And then the tests are all in the beginning and they're numbered, test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up through. And then there's also, so these are the answers for all your tests in the back here, all the tests that were in the test book. You'll see they give you not just the answer, but they also kind of walk you through how it's done, so that if you have a question or your student has a question, they can refer back to this. You can refer to this and say, oh, see, you were supposed to do this first before you did that. That sort of thing. Okay, so that's the Saxon math book. That's what they look like on the inside. I have a full type up, a review of it on the website, on the blog. You can check it out. And if you're not sure if your student's ready for pre-algebra or algebra 1/2 with the Saxon program, we do have a Are You Ready for Pre-Algebra course, 8 lessons on our website with a video and an assessment to make sure your student is totally ready for this. We also have our weekly webinars for pre-algebra starting in September of every year, and I look forward to seeing or hearing your student there and helping them through their math book. Have a good day.